Game shows are generally considered to be good, wholesome entertainment. You can sit your kids in front of shows like The Price is Right or Wheel of Fortune and know for certain that they are going to view content that you won't find objectionable. And then there are shows which provide far more questions than answers, and I'm not talking about quiz questions. These are the kinds of shows that make you wonder exactly how much tainted cocaine was in the room when they were created. The following are a list of game shows that are absolute lunacy, completely off their rocker, and provide quite possibly the opposite of entertainment. These are shows that networks would rather us forget about, so let's remember them because those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. The cringe factor is going to be high with this one, so here we go with 15 completely insane game shows no one asked for. 2 ground rules before I begin. Rule number 1, absolutely no game shows from Japan. Japanese game shows already have high enough standards for craziness, but at least there's still an entertainment factor. Rule number 2, competitive reality shows will be included. Essentially, any kind of show where there is a challenge between 2 or more people involved will be part of this list. Remember, the shows on this list weren't selected because viewers and critics didn't like them. They were chosen because they were dangerous, degrading, or downright wrong. There was a fine line between edgy and controversial, and these shows crossed that line and in some cases obliterated it. First off, an honorable mention, Fear Factor. This show was completely insane but also quite successful, so it doesn't really quite fit on this list. Each episode had contestants performing 3 challenges. Literally, who cares about the first and third challenges? You know why we're here. This show is obviously remembered for the second challenge, which was designed to make the contestants and ultimately the viewers as uneasy as humanly possible. People would be forced to eat everything from horse rectums, to buffalo testicles, to live African cave-dwelling spiders, or maybe they would just have to sleep in a bed of Madagascar hissing cockroaches, remove leeches from their partner with their mouths, or endure shocks from an electric chair. Ooh, shocks. The show was not meant for the weak of stomach or weak of mind, but my goodness was it successful. And now, who's hungry for the main list? Number 15, Man vs. Beast. This was a competition show to see who had the edge, humans or animals. Competitions include a professional eater losing a hot dog contest to a Kodiak bear, a sumo wrestler losing a tug of war to a female orangutan, or the most insane challenge of all time, 44 little people racing to pull a DC-10 against an elephant. Clearly, a show of this nature was going to receive backlash from animal rights groups, and as a result, a UK version of the show was shelved indefinitely. Having said that, Man vs. Beast was popular enough to have a sequel, Man vs. Beast 2, which aired in 2004. Number 14, Repo Games. Well, this show is certainly one way to get people's attention when it comes to repossession. Here, contestants are people who are delinquent on car payments and thus have their vehicles attached to tow trucks. They then have a chance to get their debt removed if they are able to answer general knowledge questions correctly. If they can do it, they get to keep their car. If they can't, it gets towed away, never to be seen again. The show did last for 2 seasons, although at one point the production crew was actually shot by a homeowner. An unsettling event for sure. Number 13, Three's a Crowd. This absurd and arguably outdated game show was created by Chuck Barris and centers around a man flanked by his wife and his secretary. The object of the game is to find out which woman knew him better. Likely the cause for great marital strife and the result of audience protest, this show only lasted a few months before being cancelled. Number 12, The Intercept. In this real-life version of Grand Theft Auto from Russia, contestants are given the keys to a brand new sports car and must legally drive the car for 35 minutes while being continuously pursued by the police. If the contestants are able to complete the 35 minutes, they win the car. The show is created with the intention of making car theft seem unappealing, but instead the show made for excellent TV and the end result kind of backfired. Number 11, Distraction. In this show, originally from the UK, Jimmy Carr presents questions like a normal game show, except the contestants involved must avoid being distracted by some of the most insane, bizarre challenges possible. Certain distractions involve being shocked with a dog collar upon buzzing in, being body slammed by a professional wrestler upon buzzing in, or my favorite, being forced to urinate in a specially designed toilet in order to buzz in. A US version of the show aired on Comedy Central in 2005 and also starred Carr as the host. Number 10. Touch the Truck. On this show from the UK, 20 people place their hands on a truck. Aside from time breaks, they cannot take their hands off of it. If they fall asleep, they lose. Whoever endured the longest won the grand prize, which was a Toyota Land Cruiser. In this case, the winner held on for over 81 hours, which is an extremely dangerous amount of time to be consciously awake, as people can begin to experience all sorts of negative health effects as a result. No thank you, and good night. Number 9. Superstar USA. In 2004, American Idol was at a fever pitch, and just as there was love for the best singers in the world, there were quick laughs in exploiting the so bad they're good singers like the ever-popular William Hung. Enter Superstar USA. Here, contestants believed they were in a typical style singing competition, only to find out that in the very end the judges were actually looking for how bad they were, not how good they were. The look on this poor girl's face when she found out she won is one of complete devastation. It is one of the most humiliating, degrading things to possibly do to someone regardless if they won money or not. Early critics enjoyed the show for its parody of American Idol, but then quickly lost its enjoyment when the reality of the show was revealed. So gross. Number 8. Beat the Crusher. On this show, people would have to complete a task to avoid something they love being squished by a giant car crusher. The final round was the most egregious. 2 cars in the parking lot were chosen at random, and the owners of the cars competed against each other for the sake of playing for a new car. If they won, they got to choose from 2 new cars. If they lost, their car was crushed and they were given bus fare home. The looks of shock and horror and the tears running from their faces of the contestants were as real as it got. This might be about as close to actually watching a slow-motion train wreck as it gets. Number 7. Killer Karaoke. This show was essentially Jackass meets Star Search. Hosted by Steve-O and then Mark McGrath, contestants would sing a popular song. Oh, and while they were doing it, they had to complete a less than ideal task like getting attacked by vicious dogs, squashed by morbidly obese strippers, or running through cacti, among many other insane challenges. Because there is nothing that will ruin a great song like watching someone get maimed while trying to sing it for you. Or it could improve it, depends on who you're performing. Number 6. Hurl. This endurance show was nasty on so many levels. This was a competition show on G4. It features 5 contestants that must eat as much of a specific food as they can. The top 3 eaters go on to participate in some physical challenge designed to make the contestant vomit with great intensity and fervor. This continues until one contestant with the strongest stomach remains. And what do they win? $1,000. They put their bodies and stomachs through absolute hell for $1,000. This series got flushed quickly, even though there was still a censored version to accompany the uncensored version. Who would have thought a show about explosive vomiting just wouldn't catch on? Number 5. The Chamber. On this crazy show, contestants were asked trivia questions while strapped in a torture chamber. Although 10 million people tuned in when the show premiered, it lost half of those viewers once they saw how incredibly unnerving the show was, with at least one critic referring to it as the dumbest show in the history of TV that made Temptation Island look like it's academic. One contestant was even treated for hypothermia after completing his round. Seeing humans tortured for money, as it turns out, is not something people want to watch. Number 4. Naked Jungle. Jungle Run was a popular UK children's show that ran for 99 episodes between 1999 and 2006. Thus, a spin-off named Naked Jungle was created. The show is very similar, except all of the contestants were nudists. Although the show did draw a record-setting 2 million viewers in its one-episode run, Naked Jungle also attracted widespread criticism from British media, and the idea was mercifully never revisited again. While some people may not be offended by the idea of nudism, do keep in mind this is the same set used by kids. That part is kind of gross. And speaking of kids, Number 3. Kid Nation. On this show, a bunch of inexperienced, naive children run their own autonomous nation. Not surprisingly, people turned hard on this reality show for its treatment of underage participants. The child labor debate might be the least controversial aspect of the production. Several high-profile incidents, including the accidental consumption of bleach, poor living and sanitary conditions, and manufactured drama, led to the show receiving a great deal of unwanted attention and thus a loss of sponsors. It only lasted one season in 2007, but still managed to maintain decent ratings throughout its short life. Number 2. He's a Lady. On this show, 11 men are forced to live as women, and the one that could survive elimination would win $250,000. What made this show so insane is that it drew ire by both left-wing and right-wing organizations. GLAAD reached out to the producers of the show to make sure that the show was as inoffensive as possible toward the LGBT community. Meanwhile, the American Family Association criticized the show as promoting, quote, life as a transvestite. The controversy was enough for S.E. Johnson & Son to pull out as the show's sponsor, and thus He's a Lady only lasted one short forgettable season. And the number 1 most insane game show no one asked for, Dude, This Sucks. Yes, this does suck. This sucks a lot. Heads should have rolled hard for this one. One of the stunts on the show consisted of 2 men known as the Shower Rangers collectively and purposefully having explosive diarrhea over members of the audience, including 2 13-year-old girls. The show never aired, MTV apologized for the stunt, and we can only hope to everyone holy that the footage has been thoroughly destroyed. Although technically the show is considered lost media, I would rather the show be considered abandoned media. Some things are worth better off gone.